The following program, Live and Learn, is made possible by Aging Partners. Find out more on their website at agingpartners@lincoln.ne.gov.
Welcome to Live and Learn. I'm Kristen Stoes, and today I am finishing my 4-part series on Alzheimer's disease by discussing what the future might hold for patients and their caregivers. I welcome Casey Sova of Home Instead Senior Care.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, my guests, Nicole Fleck-Tews and Holly Lewis, will tell us about programs from the Lincoln Parks and Recreation Department and how the Lincoln Cares contributions contribute to those programs.
Hello, operator. I'd like to place a call to the Lincoln Telephone Museum. Thank you very much. I'm Lita Powell Drake. Stay tuned because we're going to take a tour of the Frank H. Woods Telephone Museum. Stay with us.
Staying active in retirement is one of the goals of Aging Partners and certainly one of the goals of my guest. This is why we bring you the Live and Learn show, and my friend Harlan Johnson has set a fantastic example of how to give back to the community and stay active in retirement.
This and more on today's Live and Learn.
As I wrap up my 4-part series on Alzheimer's disease, it is my pleasure to welcome Casey Sova, Relationship Enrichment Coordinator of Home Instead Senior Care. Casey, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Let me start by asking you how you found yourself in the caregiving field.
You know, I have been caregiving on one level or another since I've been probably about 19 years old. Really found my niche and my love as I worked as a hospice volunteer coordinator for about 6 years.
Oh my, so a lot of personal experience and love comes into this field. Yes, it does. When we look ahead at the future of Alzheimer's disease, what are some of the national statistics?
Well, the national statistics are quite surprising. Right now there are more than 5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's disease. Estimates by 2050 are as high as 16 million people.
Oh my.
Alzheimer's disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States, and it is the only cause of death among the top 10 in America that cannot be prevented, cured, or even slowed. Every 66 seconds, someone in the United States develops the disease. Almost 2/3 of Americans with Alzheimer's are women, and for breast cancer, it is 1 in 11.
I think those last 3 bullet points are very sobering.
Yes, they are.
And particularly the last one, that women are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's than they are breast cancer.
After the age of 60.
Yes, and that's startling to me, actually.
It is.
Yeah, very sobering. Specifically then, what are the statistics that pertain to Nebraska?
Well, in Nebraska, in the year 2000, they estimated there were around 33,000 Nebraskans 65 and older with Alzheimer's disease. In the year 2010, that number jumped to 35,000, and by 2025, they are projecting there will be around 40,000 Nebraskans 65 and older with Alzheimer's disease.
My goodness. The fact that it's a 21% increase in a 10-year span, that is a lot.
It is.
It's a very large number.
It is a very large number,
yes.
indeed.
Due to the baby boomer population, I'm guessing?
We have a bunch of baby boomers joining the ranks of the aging population.
Yes, we do. When we look at developing Alzheimer's research, we see very promising advancements in developing antibodies to slow the progression of plaque buildup in the brain. And we even see eye scan techniques to detect Alzheimer's at its earliest stage. Mm-hmm. I believe you have information about research and early diagnostic techniques that are being done right here in Nebraska.
I do. In Omaha at the University of Nebraska Medical Center, there is the Home Instead Center for Successful Aging. The services that are offered there are very comprehensive. They work with geriatric medicine, geriatric psychiatry. There are various clinical trial programs that involve geriatric specific disorders. They provide a lot of community education. There's an outreach center. They have a fully equipped fitness and exercise area, as well as a wellness clinic for health screenings and nutrition services.
What a wonderful resource to be right here in Nebraska.
Absolutely.
And talk about a little bit about the use of body scans that they are doing.
Well, there are PET scans available, and what those PET scans show are plaque buildups in the brain that are specific to Alzheimer's disease.
I see. So that's very important for anyone to know that
Absolutely.
possibly that would be a resource for them.
Yes, yes.
All of this research is geared toward diagnosing Alzheimer's disease early in the disease process to intervene with therapies before the dementia actually develops. Why is that so important?
It's important because families should really not dismiss symptoms or make excuses for the behaviors of their family members. It's just very important to be proactive and to advocate for your loved one.
Yes, I can understand that. I'm certain that once the dementia develops, also that portion is irreversible.
Absolutely, it is.
So it seems like the research is geared more to the prevention than the cure.
Right, because right now there is not a cure. There is not
Yes.
a cure.
It certainly does fall upon the patient and the family, however, to get that person in to be diagnosed.
Right.
Do you have any words of wisdom? Because that's such a hard thing to do. It's hard to ask a question you may not want to hear the answer to.
It is, because no one wants to have that news. No one wants to have that news. But I think it's very important to educate yourself. It's very, very important to advocate for your loved one, because these individuals that are experiencing this don't have a voice. So they need to have that advocate, someone promoting and cheering for them.
Yes.
I think it's also important to seek out a support group, just to know that you're not the only one out there. Because sometimes you can feel like you are out alone on an island.
Oh, I'm sure. And once that diagnosis is made, then positive steps can start.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So that would be a reassuring feeling, I would think. Even though that's not what you want to hear, it helps
Right.
to know.
Absolutely.
The future of Alzheimer's care seems geared toward keeping the patient in their own home as long as possible.
Right.
Why is that so important?
Well, people with Alzheimer's disease really crave a couple of things. They crave familiarity and routine, and they crave a quiet, calm environment. So they may not be able to identify what is familiar, but it is a familiar environment for them.
Is it somewhat panic-inducing to move them to a brand new place, I'm
Absolutely.
imagining?
Because they don't know where they are. Nothing is familiar. Imagine if you were to be dropped off in the middle of a busy city in a country where they speak a different language. You would have no idea where to go, what to do, and it would be terrifying.
That's a very good analogy. Very good. Home care is less expensive than facility placement, I'm assuming?
Well, it ranges.
Okay.
The cost of facility care ranges. The cost of facility care can range anywhere from $2,000 to over $6,000 a month, depending on where the facility is and the level of care that's needed.
I see.
In-home care costs can range as well, but with in-home care, families can choose
Okay.
the amount of time that person, the caregiver, is in the home,
Right.
and the level of care as
A
well.
little more flexibility in
Yep,
the
it
costs
is.
incurred. A couple of important points that I'd like to make. I know when we talked earlier, you said that care is relationship based.
Yes.
And let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, relationships are so very important. All of us have tasks to complete every day. But when we have the relationship as a foundation, sometimes those tasks just fall into place on their own. What we have to remember with people who are experiencing this is their reality is whatever their most recent memory is.
Okay.
So essentially, they kind of go backwards in time. So for us to be good caregivers, effective caregivers, we have to be present in their reality because they no longer have the ability to be present in this reality.
I think that is such an important point to make. I really do. And caregiving has to be appropriate whether it's in the home or in a facility.
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
So the caregiving is paramount importance in either place. Of course, when safety becomes an issue, then the change has to be made
It
to a
does.
facility.
Yes.
Can we talk about how we go about doing that and how we can find appropriate placement?
I think, again, the most important thing is for families to be educated. I would always recommend that families visit several facilities, ask lots of questions, and then perhaps enlist the assistance of a assisted or senior retirement consultant like Bridge to Better Living.
Oh, that's a very good idea. Is it important to take the patient along with when you are assessing these facilities, or is it better for the family to go make that assessment on their own?
Well, I think it just depends on where that person is in their journey. A lot of times, again, taking them out of their normal environment can really cause a lot of stress for that individual.
Yes, I can imagine, and for everyone. One last topic that I'd like to talk about, and we do have time to talk about this, I'm so pleased, is the power of music in dealing with not only Alzheimer's patients, but really anyone with dementia. Why does music break through a barrier that no other method can?
Music is an international language. If you look at babies, even little babies, you turn music on and they may start to kind of move around and dance. The thing that's interesting with music is it triggers a different part of the brain for people with Alzheimer's disease.
Really?
So just finding the appropriate genre of music and things that that person enjoys, it's quite amazing what happens.
And to just bring a moment of joy and relaxation and relief to the situation. Of course, I think music can help almost any situation myself.
Absolutely.
So music therapy, that's a whole nother topic.
That is a whole nother topic.
That is so fascinating to me.
Yes.
Casey, do you feel that we're making progress in Alzheimer's awareness?
You know, I think that we are progressing in that, but I think that we have a lot more work to do. You know, we talked about the numbers, and the numbers are growing, and this is going to be affecting more people. So it's an ongoing process. And again, it's hard because no one wants to hear that diagnosis.
That's exactly right, and that's why I think we don't talk about it as much as we
Right.
do. It's a tough subject.
It's kind of the opposite of the field of dreams, you know. If you build it, they will come, or if you don't talk about it, it won't happen. And we need to move past
Gonna
that.
happen. I've really enjoyed having you here today, Casey. Do you have one parting word of advice for anyone listening who is either a caregiver or a potential patient?
Just be present in their reality, advocate for them, and just know that what they are experiencing is not at all what they wanted or that they intended to have any of their family members live through.
It's always the disease that you should be upset about, not the person.
Right.
Yes. I think that's a perfect ending to our segment and to our entire series on Alzheimer's disease. Thank you so much for being with us today,
Thank
Casey.
you for having me.
Absolutely. Again, my thanks to Casey Sova and all of my previous guests who have appeared with me on the topic of Alzheimer's disease. We are now showing on screen the website for the PBS presentation of The Forgetting, a portrait of Alzheimer's, a very straightforward film about Alzheimer's disease that tells this journey truthfully. It explains the disease process, the discovery of the disease, highlights a caregiver support group, the research being done, and the genetic component of the disease as it follows a family who is in the midst of dealing with generations of Alzheimer's. I'm Kristen Stowes. I know I have gained knowledge through this 4-part series on Alzheimer's disease, and I hope you have as well. Please remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
I'm Sam Truax, and today on Live and Learn, my guests are Nicole Fleck-Tews and Holly Lewis of the Lincoln Parks and Recreation Department, who will tell us about parks and recreation programs that may be of interest to older adults. Nicole, tell us about parks and recreation facilities and programs.
You bet. Well, Lincoln Parks and Recreation has one of the best systems in the nation, we think, and has a lot to offer people of all ages. We have 128 parks, 133 miles of trails. We offer public pools, golf courses, recreation centers, and when you're looking around at what the outdoor facilities are like, it's a wide range between facilities with active recreation, natural areas, and our lakes and public gardens. The programs that we have, and Holly, I know, will be talking more about those, but they range from our summer day camps to nature programs and programs for athletics.
Yes. Now, how do you think Lincoln compares to other cities as far as number of parks per capita and things like that?
Actually very well, and one of the things that's especially recognized nationally is our trail system. We've received quite a lot of recognition for that, and we continue to build on that and to partner with other agencies to make that a great system.
Well, does the Parks Department accommodate older adults and less abled individuals in some of the facilities?
Absolutely, and I think Holly is prepared to talk a little bit about that.
Well, all right, Holly, then what do the older adults participate in the most?
Well, our facilities are accessible and they're ADA compliant, so we shouldn't have any barriers for people to get in. We have a variety of activities from active to social to learning a new skill. Ballroom dance is one of them that we offer at Auld Pavilion on Tuesday evenings, and we have a very nice turnout for that of all ages, mostly older adults, but they do enjoy welcoming anybody that's interested in ballroom dance. We have table tennis at Calvert, and they meet there every day. We have different groups that meet from Monday, Wednesday, Friday to Tuesday, Thursday, and they are very much into table tennis, and they love playing against each other and welcoming new people, so we would be glad to have you come join us for a table tennis match one day. From that group, we've had another little splinter group break off and start to do pickleball, and that is something that we have some new facilities and things for that they are able to enjoy and participate with. So we also have activities for individuals with intellectual or physical disabilities. We have a very large Special Olympics team, and we have participants up to 80 years old, and so we have that opportunity. We have 10 different sports, various levels of competition. For older adults, I say we probably see the most in golf and swimming. Track and field, we have lots of walking events, so that works very well. Bocce and bowling. Those are probably the biggest events for our older adults in Special Olympics. And we have, of course, all our programs are open to anyone of any age for adults, so we would certainly welcome them.
I see the Special Olympics swimmer that we just showed a picture of is in a pool somewhere, so there's a swimming. Oh, I see. That would just be in the city pools, or does there?
Well, that particular picture I think was from our state swim meet that we have, and they compete that up in Elkhorn.
I see.
So they do that. But yes, we do swim at the high schools for practice, and then
I see.
They participate.
Very good. Well, Nicole, Aging Partners is very grateful to Lincoln citizens who contribute to Lincoln Cares. How does the Lincoln Care contribution play into the Parks and Recreation activities?
Yeah. Well, Lincoln Cares is a really great program that we have here in the city. It's a voluntary donation program where we offered an opportunity to LES customers the chance to contribute $1 monthly on their bills to provide funds for Lincoln Parks and Recreation, for Lincoln City Libraries, and for Aging Partners. And since 2003, LES customers, together with some of our matching donors, have donated nearly $1.4 million to the program.
Wow, yeah, that's great.
So for Lincoln Parks and Recreation, some of our Our past projects are some examples of those. They range quite a lot, but Lincoln Cares has helped with the renovation of sunken gardens. It's helped with the teen center at Park Middle School, the acquisition of prairie and animal care at Pioneers Park Nature Center, and the drinking fountains along trails. And those are really just a few of the projects that we've had some help on over the years for Lincoln Parks and Recreation.
Was there some involvement with pickleball? Did they do
yeah,
that? With
so
the Lincoln Cares
they
do that?
did. So we're in the process of that right now. So we have 3 projects for Lincoln Parks and Recreation that are part of our 2016 Lincoln Cares projects. The first is Parker's Pals, and that's a scholarship program that provides financial support for children of low-income families to participate in things like our swim lessons and youth and sports programs. And then the second project is the Haynes Branch Prairie Corridor, and that's a tall grass prairie corridor connected with a trail that will link the Pioneers Park Nature Center with Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center.
Yes,
The third project was kind of a big deal this year, and that's the development of new pickleball courts out at Peterson Park.
So pickleball is important enough that it needs to expand.
Yeah, so
I'll be darned.
pickleball is really a rapidly growing sport,
I'll be darned.
and it kind of combines ping pong and tennis. You can think of it like
Yeah.
a little bit like that. It's played with paddles and a wiffle ball on either indoor or outdoor courts. And the one that was is part of the Lincoln Cares project for 2016 is the conversion of 2 tennis courts at Peterson Park to 6 pickleball courts. It'll be dedicated courts for pickleball.
I
And
see.
we've partnered with a local group called Lincoln Pickleball, who's helped to raise some funds for that. And we'll be organizing leagues and providing some equipment to folks who want to try
Well,
pickleball.
I'll bet even though that's directed toward older adults right now, because they're the most participating, but I'll bet eventually that catches on to with a lot of other age groups.
Absolutely.
Well, Holly, we've had programs on Live and Learn about the volunteers and how beneficial that is for the organizations, but also for the volunteers. But in that program, we didn't really mention that Parks and Recreation might have some volunteer programs. Does Parks and Recreation have programs that people can volunteer in?
We sure do. We have a huge cadre of volunteers that help us with a variety of activities, from planting the sunken gardens to helping with programs for youth, trail work. We have all sorts of activities that they can participate in. And we are just rolling out a new volunteer program, so it should make it easier for people to access and find out what volunteer activities are available. It will be listed on the program, and you can go to our website, parks.lincoln.ne.gov, and check on the volunteers in the menu selection, and it will display what volunteer opportunities they might be in different areas that you're interested in. It also gives you an opportunity to register online and then to sign up for a volunteer opportunity. So we hope that makes it very easy for people to volunteer their time.
Well, I would like to get our viewers involved in both the volunteering and into the programs. Is there a number that they can call, or we should show the website on
Yes.
TV, but some of our older adults don't use website very frequently. So is there a number that they could call and see?
Yes, our Parks and Recreation number is 402-441-7847, and that's our main office, and they can listen to what the choices are and then get connected to where they want to speak to someone.
Well, when we're selecting volunteers, I know they need a lot of younger volunteers, at least for the camp programs in the spring. But do many older adults get involved in, for example, a lot of older adults like to give directions to the kids and things like that. Do they get some older adults that actually volunteer for the camps?
We have a variety of ages, and if it's something that's of an interest to someone, and especially if they have a background in education, that's a very good fit, and we would certainly like to visit with them about, helping with our programs. We also have a lot of volunteers with Special Olympics, and then obviously the gardens and things like that use a lot of volunteers.
And so I urge our viewers to get involved with the wonderful programs of Parks and Recreation, and to look into what Parks and Recreation has to offer to their interests. I would like to thank my guests today, Nicole Fleck-Tews and Holly Lewis, for telling us about Parks and Recreation programs. And remember, it's never too late to live and learn.
The Frank H. Woods Telephone Museum doesn't look like a heck of a lot when you go over there 21st and M and take a look at it, but wait until you go inside. I'm Lita Powell Drake, and I must admit, I had never gone to the Telephone Museum either. But when Dennis Buckley from the Lincoln Journal, the Neighborhood Extra, wrote a story that it might be closing, I said, oh, I got to get over there. It's like the Capitol building, you know, so I mean, it's always there, so, well, I'll get there one day. So I thought, I better get over there before it closes. So I went to the Telephone Museum, and I discovered a jewel. And we want you to go too, and we have with us the experts who are here today to tell us a little bit more, and we're going to take a tour of the museum. Diane Walkowiak is with us today. She is a volunteer at the museum. And our wonderful friend Roger Harris, who worked for the telephone company, Lincoln Telephone and Telegraph, for 41 years. You can't stay away from it, can you?
No, it's kind of inbred into you.
Well, what do you do there? Tell us a little about the background and how it got started.
Well, the phone company, I was really intrigued with the museum as I retired, and so we got down to volunteer. Basically, the museum was started in 1928 as management told some of the employees to start saving items that come across or were to be removed. And so basically it started then, but in our current building, we've only been in there for 20 years because most of the items were housed all over the place, and this was a way to generate them back into one location.
Well, somebody had to set up a design because it's really quite well constructed with things being chronologically listed. Who did all that? Were you a part of that?
No, that was before I retired. We had some very, very nice retired people that volunteered their time. They went down and done the painting and laid the carpet and built the bathrooms. They basically built the whole thing because way back before this building turned into a museum was a construction office.
Oh.
Before that, it was
that's why
Don
it looks on the
Millie's.
outside the way it looks, because it was a construction office, yeah. It looked like an old garage or something. That's why I said it doesn't look like much from the outside.
Originally was built for a tire outfit was in there. And then Don Millie's took over. I suppose you remember them.
Don and Millie, yes.
And then our constructions office took it over. Now we've been in there for 20 years.
Well, it is absolutely a little jewel. And we want to take a look now to have you get a quick tour. And we'll tell you what you're seeing here at the Frank Woods Telephone Museum at 21st and M Street. It's open on Sundays, 1 to 4, and Thursday nights now, too, for a while.
Yes, for the summer, we're also open on Thursday evenings from 6 to 9.
Okay, let's take a tour now and see what we're seeing. So how involved was Wally Tubbs in this?
Most of the items in here, some of them were from the Woods family. Some of them come from trade shows. Some of them were bartered off. Anything we have extra, they would get online and find somebody else that was in need of them and formed a trade. What you're seeing now are all the replicas of Thomas Bell when he was trying to design, and so they date clear back to 1876, his very first ones that he started designing. Right now you're looking at the switchboards from...
How those women managed the switchboard is a mystery.
Yeah.
And earlier you saw the big harnesses that the women had to wear early on, and those weighed several pounds.
What was the harness for?
so that they would speak and be able to be hands-free as they're talking into.
So they had to have all hands on deck, yeah. What year would that be approximately?
What you're looking at right now is a rural setting in a living room, and the operator normally slept to the board 24/7.
Ah.
And
this is where it first began?
This is the very first LTNT building, and that was at 300 South 14th, and I'm not sure what's there now, but it's across the street from the state office building.
Now, is that the candlestick phone in various phases?
Yes.
That must have been really pop. Oh, and the payphone, the payphone.
Yes.
The metal payphones are from 1910. The wooden ones were started in 1905. This logo here is from the Bell system, which owned most of this territory until 1912 when Woods family was able to purchase it from Bell.
How many phones have you got there in that small little building, approximately?
Well, we said 500 until one come in the other day, so we got to say 501 now.
And lined up pretty much according to the years?
From the very first to up until our museum kind of stops at 1990.
About 1990. We ran out of room, hit the back wall.
Yeah, so this is why we need to expand, because we've got stuff in storage that should be on display, and we need to put out anything past 1990, like iPads and all that kind of stuff.
Are young kids getting the opportunity to see this museum?
The very young
they have
kids
no,
are.
No clue, huh?
Because we bring in probably in the summertime when before school's out, we probably have 200 grade school kids come through there.
Oh, good.
And it's a historical museum.
Now, I saw a picture of John Pershing in the museum. What's he got to do with it?
John Pershing ended up to be a very good friend of Frank's. John was in Lincoln from 1891 to 1895, setting up an ROTC program at the university. But they become friends.
John Pershing involved in everything in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yes.
Now, I also saw a picture of the lineman. I'm a lineman for the county. What does that represent? That's a beautiful, beautiful painting.
Oh.
The painting by Norman
That's
Rockwell.
The Norman Rockwell, the Norman
line.
Rockwell painting.
Oh,
of the guy
okay.
hanging, on the line.
That man is up there, and he's adhering the cable to the steel strand with what we call a spinner. The spinner comes and wraps the telephone cable around the steel messenger. So it's like a three-man crew, because he ties it off and then he sets it off on the other side of the pole so they continue on.
Yeah, no, so Norman Rockwell painting right there in the Telephone Museum. I just love that. Now, tell us about all the women operators and why so many women operators.
Well, they were concerned in the early days about the safety of women, particularly working late shifts. And so they started bringing in young male operators, age 11 to 15, but there was a little too much goofing around. And so LTNT went back to all female operators, but they had to be single and they had to stay in the same boarding house. So the phone company would send a carriage to pick them up, bring them to work, pick up the other women at the end of their shift and bring them back.
They had to be unmarried.
Correct.
What has that got to do with anything?
It probably involved less fuss for the phone company.
And do you have any idea what they would have been paid at that particular time?
I do not have that information, but I think it's fascinating to see. Earlier we saw the display of women operators in their home, and so you see just so many opportunities for early outside employment for women, as well as employment in the home, and just getting them into the workforce.
All right, let's go back to our tour now, a little more of the tour of the Frank H. Woods building, and that's his office, isn't it?
That's Frank's office, yes. We was able to confiscate the desk and also the rack in the back there where his hat is hanging.
Yes, we are.
Oh, his bowler hat and his umbrella. That's the real ones, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, look at all those phones.
There's just such an immense collection of phones in the museum, and what I love about it is that you can visit several times and see something different every time you go,
Yes.
or you learn a little more about a
What is
particular
this?
type of phone, such as very early cans and a
You
string.
don't remember when you was a small child, every kid had a can with a string tied to it so they could talk to each other.
Oh, and look at the variety.
Coming up here, you will see a police box right there. And
Right in the
that was
center.
located downtown for the walking beat cop. And it was finally removed in 1970, but if they needed the cop, they would have a little light up on top of a pole indicate to him that he needed to call in to the dispatcher. Maybe there was an accident on a corner or something similar.
That's my favorite phone. I mean, the rotary, the dial phone, but it was strong. If somebody knocked it off, it never broke. It always was there, and that lasted a long, long time. I love that phone.
They were durable.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first ones were made out of Bakelite, and then they went to plastic.
Oh.
This is some interesting shots of the different styles and the colors.
Yes, eventually they started having colors. It was more than just black.
Yes.
Oh, look at the variety. But we always had an old-fashioned black
Black
one,
phone.
Yeah.
the cheap one. We always had the cheapest. Touch calling is so much fun, and
Oh,
it's
yes.
fast. There is the Erica
The
phone.
Erica phone, yes.
And the whole, what was the concept of that, just to make it easier to pick up? Oh, excuse me, what are these lights?
Okay, these are the insulators. They're various colors and designs and manufacturers. The smaller ones were for the rural exchange, which had the iron wire, and the bigger ones were the toll lines, which held the copper wire from, we'll say, from Lincoln to Hastings and Lincoln to Beatrice.
And what is that?
That is a 1929 truck that we was able to purchase out of Kansas. You'll see the equipment up on top.
Is this like the repair or the, you know, the...
This was probably a rural installation truck because
Wait, just quickly with the Indian picture here.
Okay.
The telephone poles are out there. Isn't that amazing? Oh, and there's the
There's
picture.
that Norman Rockwell.
That's
There's
the
the
one you
Norman
were
Rockwell
talking about
painting.
earlier.
Yes, it really very. Oh, that's really very special. Okay, and right quickly we're going to show you some that you happen to have brought in, and this is the first telephone over here. This
that's
one,
the
right?
very first one that Alexander Graham Bell was expert with because he was a mechanical engineer, and he was trying to design something that would have talking capabilities over a line.
So what year would have this been?
That was in 1875.
Come here, Watson. I need you.
That
Why
was-
was he hollering that?
That was in 1876, and he had just spilled some acid on his pants, and so he was hollered at Watson in the next room.
I would have been
So
hollering.
that was
too.
in '76 when he finally had a working model.
Okay, Roger, what about this phone? Is this the forerunner of the candlestick phone?
This is probably 2 years into it, and the unique thing about this is you'll see the plastic on the front. This is the year that tuberculosis was prevalent,
Wow.
and so when people got done with this, they had to take it off and boil it
Oh my goodness.
to keep the germs off of it. And then,
Whoops.
And then,
It's a good thing these are well made.
and then they put it back in for the next
I just
person to
cleaned
use.
it out so I don't get tuberculosis. Okay, now what about this one?
That's the old Eric phone that started in 1965.
I love
It's like
that.
a one-piece unit. It come out originally with a dial, and then years later come out with a touch call on it.
Okay, and then just, I got to show you this one quickly because we're running out of time, but I found this in a garage sale, and I showed it to these two folks, and they weren't quite sure what it was, but you know what it is? Anybody know what
A
this
very small phone.
Yeah, it's a very tiny phone. It's a cigarette lighter.
A
It's
cigarette
a cigarette
lighter. Oh, my.
lighter. Yeah, and it works. It really works. You put.
Have you been smoking?
Well, no. Well, I didn't want to wreck it by putting the stuff in there, you know. So but it works. But the phone company. Now I know we're running out of time, but quickly, What is the future of the museum? What's the status right now?
Well, development is occurring in the area, and so the phone museum does need to move. It will be in its current location at 2047 M until sometime next year. And the developers, Nelnet and Speedway, are providing the space rent-free, and we really appreciate that. It gives us time to explore our options and look for a new location.
So we hope to have a new building, maybe?
Oh yes, we are very excited about the future because we're looking for a larger space, more hours during the week, and a lot more exhibits.
Well, right now, if you haven't gone, you can go over Sunday, 1 to 4. It's free. A donation would be appreciated. Or on Thursday nights, I think, yeah. And so do it before it leaves. It's going to go soon. I hope later than sooner.
Oh, we expect to be around a long time, but if you want to see it at its current location, yes, do visit.
It is so special. And remember, our thanks to Diane Walkowiak for being with us today, and to Roger. Roger, it's been very, very special to live and learn a little bit more about the Lincoln Telephone Museum.
Staying active in retirement is really important, and not many have set a better example than our guest today, one of our beloved hosts, Harlan Johnson. Welcome to Live and Learn again from the other side of the table, Harlan.
All right, well, Chris, thank you, and it's an honor to be considered a guest and to be a host and to wind this all up.
Well, you've worn many, many hats in your lifetime. Tell us about your early life.
Well, of course, very early on, I studied for the ministry and was in undergraduate and seminary. I had the distinct honor of being run out of a church in Texas because I preached against racism, so I'm proud of that. But and then I had 20 years with the YMCA and 22 years with legislature, and of course a lot of volunteer with various organizations.
So you were born in Kansas, started
Yes.
there. What drew you to the ministry, Harlan?
Well, I was in high school and felt like that I had a directive to go that direction, to work in the line of Christian service. And then I just kind of followed that and kept that as my guideline for what I did with my career, my life, and all of my education and such.
Mm-hmm. So were you educated in Kansas as well?
Well, I went to school in Oklahoma. Then after I had that experience with that church in Texas, I was working part-time with kids there, and they offered me a full-time job, and it was a monumental decision for me to make that decision, but I did, and swimming had been an important part of my life, and I started teaching swimming, and over the years, we figured out I'd taught over 10,000 kids how to swim, and then it was into life-saving and CPR and all that sort of stuff. I purchased the first Recessi Ann that was in the state of Nebraska in 1960. So was teaching CPR long before it was even an authorized course for the Red Cross to teach. So a great legacy in that area.
So from Kansas to Texas to Lincoln, Nebraska, about what year was that?
1960, I moved to Lincoln, and of course, Nebraska had beat Oklahoma the year before, and I was looking for a new dynasty, and how profound that was.
Well, it sounds like you made a wise choice, and I know for those of us who grew up in Lincoln, the Northeast Y was an iconic project that you were instrumental in making happen. How did that come to be?
Well, when I came to Lincoln, the board had built a house for the director and one of the rooms there was an office for the Y. So I operated the Northeast YMCA. We thought it was going to be 2 or 3 years, but it was 10 years actually, out of my office there in my house. I taught swimming at Wesleyan at Nebraska, at Northeast High School, neighborhood pools. We used all the gymnasiums in all of the neighborhood and all the schools, and just had some of the best program, the cheapest program that you could have for a Y for kids. And then finally in 1969, we accomplished the Northeast YMCA being built and moved into that.
It's been a real hub for that community. It was on the edge of town when it was built, and now the Northeast Lincoln has just grown and grown, and we've got new Y locations in Lincoln, and you really planted some seeds that have really contributed to the Lincoln community.
Well, there were some people in the downtown organization that was concerned about moving the Y outside of downtown, concerned that it would be able to financially survive. And when I drive by today and I see all the cars and all the families, yeah, I feel a little pride.
As you should. Volunteerism has always been a part of your life, be it in the church or the YMCA. Talk about your work with the Red Cross.
Well, when I came to Lincoln, it was obvious, I did a study, that there wasn't any real good swim lessons in Northeast Lincoln. So I went to the Red Cross. I was trained in Red Cross WSI, and Harold Hill said, sure, we'll help. We'll provide some funds for rental of pools. And we taught, learned to swim throughout the summer. And that was just a big start in a lot of years. And then it got into, as I said, life-saving. And I spent actually 52 years on the first aid team. Very proud of that service. Missed one home game at the football in those 52 years. My brother's wife passed away, and they kind of thought maybe it was important that I might go to the funeral that day. And then I spent 24 years up in the command post directing the operation, and I feel very proud of that legacy that's a part of Nebraska football and the first aid team that's very viable there yet today.
Absolutely. I know that's been a tremendous service, and the stadium has certainly grown, and the number of people coming and going is just phenomenal. After you retired from the Y, you went to work at the legislature. What was your role there?
Well, it was an ideal role for me. The state office building had just been built, and all the state agencies had moved out, and the Capitol building was kind of a ghost area. And it was my job to come up with 49 private offices for senators and to come up with public hearing rooms that were an improvement on what they had for hearing rooms in those days. And so that was a good study, and worked out quite well to utilize that space for the legislative area and to have the public hearings. We put in a closed circuit television set where now you can watch any hearing room in your office on TV, closed circuit. And so it was a big improvement in being able to portray the legislature to the public and to those that came in to be a part of a legislative hearing.
One of the interesting visitor spots down at the Capitol is the Peregrine Falcon Watch. And I know you had an experience with a falcon in one of the courtyards when you were working at the Capitol.
Well, I always like to go out and sit in one of the courtyards. And one day the falcon was just really raising a cane up there, and I was sitting there watching, looking at him. And son of a gun, a pigeon flew into view, and I saw the falcon make a dive. He hit the pigeon, and knocked it out. And the pigeon goes fluttering down. The falcon goes down underneath, swoops up underneath, grabs the falcon, takes it up, and that's lunch for the day. Oh, geez, I wish I had that on camera, but it was a memorable sight that I'll always remember about the falcons.
Yeah, you couldn't be prepared to shoot a photo like that, could you?
Yeah, with camera phones nowadays, maybe so, but
There's always something going on down at the Capitol, and I know the installation of those cameras and the opportunity to watch hearings from offices was huge. How did that influence your then final your volunteer activities in retirement?
Well, I did spend an awful lot of time behind the cameras for the hearing rooms, for bills, for death hearings, for the governor's hearings, and got into judicial where people in North Platte would testify for a hearing going on in Lincoln. We were able to hook it up through NET, and so yes, it was a big improvement for government. But since I spent all this time behind the camera, after I retired, Aging Partners announced that they were going to do a TV show, and they were looking for hosts. Well, 54 people applied, and I happened to be one of the ones that was the 4 that was chosen to be one of the hosts. And for 16 years, that's over 150 shows that I've participated in. A lot of very interesting people, and a lot of fun for being involved with the Live and Learn show over these 16 years.
Well, I know it's been a delight to be on this side of the table, and I know that you've interviewed some prominent figures here in Lincoln. Who were some of the notables that you interviewed?
Well, you know, as we looked around the community, there were people that we wanted to get, on film, people that were prominent figures, Governor Morrison, and people like Helen Busalis, people that were involved with government, Jim Exon, and Norm Otto. And then, so we had this show, and one of the Republican senators said, well, yeah, you got your Democrat friends on there. How about a show for Republicans? And I said, well, would you be willing? He said, well, sure, I'll come in and I'll be a part of it. And so then we did one with a few of the Republican leaders, and Shirley Marsh, and a number of the Republicans at that time that was, yeah, they're in the can now, and I look back at those spots once in a while. It's kind of interesting.
Absolutely. I know you have a favorite interview that you did. Which guest was your very favorite?
Well, actually, it was one of my last ones. We've been acquainted with Tom Osborne for a number of years and worked with football program, but we had Tom on to talk about his involvement with selecting the national championship, and a gracious guest, and very knowledgeable in that area, and it was a nice notch on the belt to have that opportunity.
Well, some segments stand out for good reasons, like your interview with Tom Osborne, and then there are those bloopers. And our viewers may not know that we tape this show, but we don't really edit as we're going along. You pretty much tape the show, and then it goes out. Well, yeah. And you had a particular incident on a cooking show.
Well, we made the decision it'd be good for all of us to do a cooking show. You know, a Rachel Ray type cooking show. So, all right, I'll put together some cinnamon rolls. And we did the old show where we put them in the pan, and then we went off camera, we put them in the oven, then we came back, did more of the show, went back and got the cinnamon rolls, brought them out, and they're looking delicious, and the crew all starts laughing.
Why were they laughing at your cinnamon rolls, Harlan?
Well, here I was carrying this hot cinnamon roll pan right out of the oven in my bare hands. So, yeah, no pads. Okay, all right, well, you learn. Live and learn.
Live and learn, that's right. That's what we do on both sides of this table, don't we? Well, Harlan, as a minister, you have blessed families as they face big situations in life, and you're there when their babies are brought before the church and when people are laid to rest, and many weddings and blessings in between. And you've recently faced a big situation yourself.
Well, yes, I over the years I did a number of weddings, a number of funerals, family, friends, associates, relatives, one thing and another. Did a lot of hospital calls for our minister when he was out of town or on vacation. And this past year, well, a little bit over a year now, I started losing weight. And doctors couldn't figure out why. You know, it was almost 75 pounds later. And we haven't figured out why this old guy is losing all this weight. Well, one day I nearly collapsed in a doctor's office. They put me in the hospital with a lot of tests. They said, you have what's called pulmonary fibrosis. It's an uncurable disease. We don't know how you got it. There's not really anything we can do about it. You can go on the internet and you can find out about it. Well, I went on the internet. It said you basically have as much as 2 years to live. Well, I've already gone through over a year of this stuff. And so I'm in that last year, and now 6 months later, in the last 6 months, and you know, you go through several emotions. You go through the shock, the depression, you bargain with God, you come up with, okay, I can't deny this, it's a fact, and make your bucket list, do what you can, and make the best of it. I've always been a positive person. My personality has always been on the positive side. So I have a great legacy. I have a swimming pool named after me. Geez. I have 10,000 kids who know how to swim. I have a great history with the YMCA, the Red Cross, the church, Rotary, with the YMCA Camp Kentucky, and with the Aging Partners and the Senior Foundation. So I've been grateful to Bill Luxford here, who got me on the Live and Learn show, Deb Batten, that was our host, and Zoe Olson, that worked with us for a number of years. Dave Norris now has taken over that job directing the Live and Learn show. And I have a big thank you to those people.
Well, we want to say thank you to you. I know you were honored by President Bush for your volunteerism, and that's the lapel pin you wear today. I know I speak for all who have been touched by your kindness and your dedication to serving others and your dedication to rights for all people, because you recognize their value. And those who have enjoyed your many programs here on Live and Learn, we thank you for those. And we wish you wonderful times with those you love and with your family. And we want to thank you for being our guest and for all that you've done for Lincoln, for seniors, for everyone. And I just really appreciate you being here today, Harlan.
And remember, it's never too late to live and learn. Thanks.
Thank you.